Good evening, everyone. I'm not just speaking for those who are here in person, but for those who are joining us on live streaming to make sure they know we are going to be starting momentarily. So in the meantime, for those who are joining us locally, good evening, and for those who are joining us from Israel, Boker Tov. It is early in the morning in Israel.
Very, very early.
Well, wherever you would like. Where's mine? John Mark, did you see anyone else look like they were coming in behind you? Okay, we'll wait just one more moment. Keep on schmoozing and chatting. You did, didn't you? Okay. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Rabbi Todd Chisner, the rabbi here of Temple Judea, and we are blessed to have this joint event tonight with the Sid Jacobson JCC. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be calling up one of the newest employees at the Sid Jacobson JCC, who is the Director of Jewish Life, to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. And I just wanted to say a couple of words about this new employee at the Sid Jacobson JCC, who I will be calling up. She's really phenomenal. She's terrific. She's great in her position at the JCC and all the other things that she does. And she also happens to be my wife. Aww. Lauren, please come up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. So we are really blessed tonight to have Noam with us. So just a little bit about one of the real gifts that we have here on Long Island with the JCC is the Center for Israel. And within the Center for Israel, we have an Israeli delegation that comes every couple of years. So we have senior shlichim, senior emissaries who come for 2 or 3 years. We have junior shlichim emissaries that come for another 2 years, and we have Shinshanim. So our Shinshanim are high school, they've graduated high school, and they have put off their army service, and they have come to the United States and around the country and around the world to teach, to bring Israel, to bring their Israel. And so here on Long Island, and here at Temple Judea, I don't know if you even realize, but Yarden is your own Shinshin. So she is here with our students, with Lauren's students every week. And some of you studied with Dagan last month through Zoom. So Temple Judea is really taking advantage. It's really a blessing that we have all of our Israel delegation. And I want to introduce Maya Sharon, who is part of the delegation, but in charge of all of our Shinshanim. So 3 years ago, I've been part of the Shinshin program at Port Jewish Center. This is my 7th year, and it's really one of the greatest opportunities that I have for my students and their families to learn about Israel. And so 3 years ago, I was blessed to have Noam with us at Port Jewish Center. And, you know, the relationship for me at least, with our Shinshanim of past doesn't end when they leave the United States in August. And I've had the pleasure of keeping in touch with Noam and seeing her when I travel to Israel. Almost, I think, every trip I've seen you. And throughout the years through social media and texting and WhatsApp. So it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome Noam back to Long Island. I got to spend the day with her today. And I also want to introduce, we have 2 of our 6 Shinshiniot here on Long Island. You've got Yarden, who is here at Temple Judea, and Aya, who is with us as well. And I think you guys are serving, 35 different communities this year? So we have 6 on Long Island really teaching about Israel and sharing their Israel, and so it's really a true gift. So it's my honor to welcome Noam, who just landed yesterday, and she will tell you her story, but she just was released from the Army on Monday. So she was released from the Army, she jumped on a plane, and here she is to really share her story with us. So welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Okay, so hi everyone, to those of you who know me and those of you who might not so much. Like Lauren introduced me, my name is Noam. I was a Shinshinite here in the years 2021, 2022. I worked in many places in the community, just like other Shinshinim and like Aya and Yarden are doing. And I got to meet with a lot of people and kind of also tell my Israeli story. After I finished, I got back and enlisted into the Army. In the Army, I served as a medic trainer. I did training with doctors and paramedics and medics and warriors to help train them better how to save a life in the field. And in October 7th, I was at my home, which is in Kibbutz Yad Mordechai. My kibbutz is on the Gaza envelope. I live 2 kilometers away from the border with Gaza. So I don't know how would you imagine it, but it's a 15-minute car ride into Gaza City, if you wanna picture the closest place that you can think of that is a 20-minute drive. So that's how close I am to the border. So I am happy to share my story with you. And if you have any questions or anything, we'll have some time for that at the end. So feel free to ask whatever you want to ask that might not have been an opportunity for you up until now to ask. I really encourage you to just talk about whatever you feel like talking about, even if you might think if it's not appropriate or uncomfortable, just please ask the questions you want to ask. It's really important to me to talk about it. So I'll start on October 7th, and I'll try to keep you engaged in the story. It's kind of complicated. So on October 7th morning, as you all know, there has been a brutal attack on Israel. I was home with my 3 siblings. My parents were in the center of Israel, in Tel Aviv, and we were alone. I was waking up from my brothers opening the door to my room, because my room is the safe room in the house, and they were just, barging in the door like they do every time there is an alarm or a session, and that's how I know, they started again. For us, it was, unfortunately, to say a regular morning, because you wake up and you say, oh, they started again, and really quickly we understood that something was different this time, because when I pick up the phone to call my mom, she said, and tell her that we're safe and we're in the shelter, she said that it already got to Tel Aviv. And usually it takes them time before they're firing at Tel Aviv. It takes even a few days normally for them to fire at that area. So we knew something different is happening that morning. Not long after that, we started, the internet went down, so it was really hard to receive messages and calls and texts. But we started also receiving texts from the kibbutz to lock down the house, close the windows, lock ourselves in the shelter, and if anyone has weapons that they can use to get them into the safe room as well. Now, I don't know if you know this, but a safe room is not meant to be locked. That means it's not like a regular door that you can lock in some way. It doesn't have a lock. So you can't lock it even if you want. So a lot of the stories that you might have heard involve people holding down the shelter door because there is no way of locking it. So we were there. My older brother is 23. I'm 21. My younger brother is 16, and my younger sister is 15. So take that a year back, and that's basically 4 kids in a shelter. We had no real weapons, so we took a knife and we took a baseball bat, and we stood guard on the door, turned on the TV, and started listening to the news. Around 7:10, they started reporting about infiltration into the settlements around us, like kibbutzim and moshavim in our area, but they didn't say where. Around that time, my brother signaled me, I hear gunshots outside. And so we really didn't know what was happening. We just knew it's close and it's bad. We didn't know how many. We didn't know what was really happening outside, and we have limited communication. My mom was constantly trying to reach us, and it got her even more scared that we really couldn't pick up because there was no internet and no way to actually communicating. We managed communicating through my sister's phone and to tell them that we were okay, and at that point she told me that my dad is coming to pick us up. Now, my dad doesn't have on him a weapon. He is an officer in the army, in the reserve, but he does not have a firearm at home or near him. And we couldn't even grasp what was happening. We had no information about what our area was going through. We just knew that there was a lot of infiltrations in multiple places. And so I begged my mom to tell my dad not to come down because we didn't know what would happen if he did. We didn't know where there were terrorists or if he gets hurt on the way, which for me was really scary. And at those moments in the shelter, knowing that my dad might be coming and knowing that we are kind of sitting all together, doesn't know what really needs to be done at this point or what can we do. The only thing I remember starting to think about is, where do I hide my siblings? I know my room better than any of them, and I started thinking, where can I put them so that if someone comes through that door, he won't find them, he will find me and my older brother because we got nowhere to hide. We're too big and too visible. So I just kind of remember that thought crossing my mind, and at some point, I have a lot of blanks from that day. I have things I don't remember doing, people I don't remember texting, but that thought kind of stuck with me throughout and after that day, because it was really scary for me to think that someone will take my sister or will take my brother, and they'll be, unfortunately, like the hostages we have now in Gaza. And so I really remember thinking that, and then we got another call from my dad. He called to say that he is almost here and that we need to get ready to get out. And by this point, there was no point on begging him not to come because he was already almost here. But then my brothers decided that they want to go out of the shelter to get clothes and stuff. And I think, you can't really grasp how many terrorists was out that day. It's not something we even realized on the day itself. I think only after October 7th, people started to realize how massive that thing was. And for me, it kind of hit really quickly that however many of them are, they have guns and weapons, and we do not. So I started a screaming match with my older brother. I begged and pleaded and cried and screamed for them not to leave the shelter, because from outside you can hear everything: explosions, alarms, gunshots, repeat. And I don't know, I hope none of you ever heard a live gunshot, but it always sounds so much closer than it actually is, and you can never really know where is it. So it was kind of a loop of that, and I begged them not to go out of the shelter. Didn't help much. They went out. They started grabbing some clothes, and I was still with my sister in the shelter. I told her, "You are not moving a muscle, like you're staying here." And my dad came. He came in. We took a little back and forth about when to come out. Once we opened the shelter door, you hear it very clearly. Gunshots, all in a row, and explosions, alarms, all above your head. All feels too close and too personal and too dangerous to just walk out to. And my brother was also working as a security guard at the time, so he had a weapon, just not at home, at his apartment. And they had a brief discussion: should we go get it? And we made a decision that this is not smart because we don't know, again, where they are, and if they could have just walked there and be killed on the way. So my dad finally made the decision. He said, "Everybody on the car right now," and started driving. It was the fastest time it ever took us to travel to Tel Aviv. And it was, I think, the longest ride of my life. We went through the back of the kibbutz, again, not knowing where or when or how. We drove without seat belts on, just in case. We were scared that my little siblings will see a body on the way, so we told them to get their heads down and not look outside. I think by around 9 a.m., we were in Tel Aviv with my mom. So we weren't there, we left when everything was up in flames around us. what I know now, what we know now that happened in our kibbutz was that we had a group of terrorists coming from our front gate. They had, like, all the gunshots we heard was fighting between the people in the kibbutz and some soldiers that were on the kibbutz. And later on, there was a truck of 16 terrorists coming our way, and the people who really saved us that day was a SWAT team that was sent that morning, one of two that got to us first, because when you drive, we are the first on the line. And they made the decision. They saw the truck, like they saw the truck with our people, and they fired at it. They killed every terrorist on that truck, and then they made the decision to stay and protect the kibbutz, and that's what saved everybody on our kibbutz that day. So unfortunately, we were untouched and unharmed, at least physically. It's a day that I remember, like, in points, like points of the day that were significant to me, or, kind of memorable. And so after that, when we got to Tel Aviv, the TV is running with news about everything. And then at 11, we got the first call, the first name. So, like many people, we lost a lot that day. But the first name was this. This guy is Neta Epstein. He was a friend of my brother's. He was 22 when he died. He was living in Kfar Aza with his fiancée, Irene, and he died protecting her. He jumped on a grenade to save her life, and because of that, she's alive today. They got to her hours after he died, and they rescued her, and now she is, she's a lot in the U.S. explaining and telling her story. She's a very amazing woman. I cannot even explain, but Neta was a really close friend of my brother, and he was the first name we got that day. He died a hero, but he had so much life in him. Neta loved playing soccer ever since he was a little boy. People always say about him that he was such a people's person, and not in the sense that we may talk about other people. He would walk up in the dining hall and talk to the elderlies in the kibbutz community, and everyone he saw, he treated with kindness and welcoming, and he was, such an amazing person. And his name, is the first one I think of when I think of October 7th, because that's the first name that we got. And it was like a moment where you hear the first name, it's like, well, maybe he's not dead. Like maybe he's just injured and no one knows because he's unconscious. And you take so long to recognize that first name, and when time moved on that day, you realized that you can't really accept that the people we lost that day were really lost. The second name I heard was a friend of mine. She wasn't pronounced dead at the time. She was pronounced missing. She served with me in the army. I got to know her. We enlisted together. We went through basic training, and then we went to the medic course together. and she was serving in like the Gaza area the day of October 7th, and she was a medic. And what I remember most of her is the last conversation I had with her was about where she wanted to serve. She came to me and she said, I know you'd understand what I'm trying to say. I am conflicted about where I want to serve, and I think you might have a good advice, because I knew the areas she was talking about. And I remember telling her, talking to her, and she said, I have this opportunity and that, and then she talked about the Gaza area. And I told her, we talked about it for a while, and then I ended up telling her, well, I know you want to be hands-on, and I know you want interaction and to save lives. Her dream was to become a doctor. I think from whatever options that you're dealing with, the Gaza area will be the best one and the most interesting for you. And it's kind of something I carry around with me. Sorry. Because I feel in a way that my last conversation with her was the one that convinced her to go there. And it's, a sort of guilt, and I know it's not my fault, and she would probably ended up there whether or not I said so, but it's something I carry on with me. And I want to tell you, her name is Shir Biton. She was an amazing person. She volunteered in MADA, which is the first aid organization in Israel, for years. She really was the best at what she did. She always the one who studied the latest, and she had to get good grades, and she was the best. She was really the best at that, and she was also a dear friend and a dear person. Thank you. And so she also died fighting, and it's something that is really important for me to say, because she died fighting. She managed to get her gun and kill one of the terrorists that was aiming at her, and unfortunately, she and another friend of her died during the struggle with them. And the third name from that day came at around noon, 1, 2, something like that. And it was the closest person I've lost in this war. His name is Amit Vax. He lived in Nativa Asara. He has 3 children. His older daughter is my best friend. I grew up on this man's lap. Excuse me. I know his entire family. His parents were kind of like my grandparents. I grew up in the house. And on October 7th day, Amit went out to fight and protect his family, because that's the kind of man he was. He was a soldier and a fighter his whole life, fighting for the country that he loved and served his entire life, from his army service that was special forces in the Navy, and after to the Army Secret Service. That was his life. He retired a year before October 7th, and even then, he went on reserve all the time. He volunteered. He did so much that we discovered after he died. He was a man with an infectious smile. You just saw him and you wanted to kind of hug him and smile with him, and he was just so much alive. He knew how to live life to the fullest, and this is also how we want to remember all of them. And Amit, on October 7, he went out to fight, and he got ambushed and was killed on Netiv Asara, along with his older brother that was out fighting as well, and got killed as well. This wine is something that my dad and his good friend, like my parents and their best friend, made in honor of him to kind of celebrate the life that he had with a glass of wine, just like he liked. I'll move that around. You can see there's a picture of him here. And it says at the bottom, his name, Amit Vax, and everybody called him Vaxi. And he's like, the small print says, family, people, sea, soil, life. To kind of summarize the kind of person that he was. This specific wine was born, like the idea of it was born based on a video he sent to my mom on her birthday. He sent her a video talking about their favorite brand of wine and suggesting that they should blend the wine he was drinking, who was from Yekev Dalton, which is a winery in Israel, and their favorite brand, which is Chateauneuf. So they made up, so he said, this is what the good friend that helped them develop this, his name is Doron, this is what Doron should make. He should make a Daltonef, which is a combination of the two names. And so when they saw the video, they decided to talk to the winery and to make this wine to share with people and to drink for the good life he had. So here in the back, there's a barcode that you can scan that takes you to a page commemorate him, and also it has the video on it. So if anyone later wanna do that, that's as well a possibility. So October 7th was a really hard day for all of us, wherever we were, whether it's Israel, whether it's here in America. And as a soldier on October 7th, you experience stuff differently because you feel like you should have done more. You should have been there for more people because you serve where people were asking and crying out, where is the army? And in a way, you are the army. And so it's a very complicated and difficult time to be a soldier because you want to do everything you can to fight for your country, and sometimes you just can't. And so as a soldier at war, if we're talking about a little past October 7th, I feel like here and there was a huge rise of people kind of donating and becoming, and you receive some of that, and you receive like donations, and you receive stuff. After October 7th, I was evacuated from my house, and I was called back into the army, and I had nothing to go with because I didn't take anything from home. I barely took my uniform. And the moment people heard that I have nothing to sleep with, to be with, to they called like one person, and 50 people approached me with like texts and calls and like, what can we get you? What do you need? Where are you staying? How can we get to you? And, you know, it was so heartwarming to see how many people kind of got to me and to what I needed, and to think about my friends who were fighting, and I know that they got it too, was so wonderful, because you also had such a great part in it. Like, I know from all the people here, like my host family, Lauren, and the different people at Sid Jacobson and Sid Jacobson, that you, at the moment something like that happened to Israel, people just, they came, they donated, they asked, what can we do and how can we help? And that is something that is so meaningful for our community, both as soldiers and as people who were without a home and without our personal like items and personal life. We got so much from all of you. And I also want to take advantage of this stage and say thank you for everything you did and everything you are still doing in this difficult time. I know that being a Jewish person today can be challenging, and for that I also want to say thank you for standing up for Israel. And I also want to share with you some stuff that might make it easier for you to feel that you're still a part of everything that's going on, and to feel like you're doing something, because you don't have to go to Israel just to say that you're doing something. Your donations and you just talking about Israel and sharing is so much. And I want to say to you that we still need the donations. I have friends in the army who knew I was coming here and was a little embarrassed to ask me this, but they asked if I could ask you to donate, because they still have stuff missing and they need equipment to fix equipment that was hurt and damaged during this fighting and the war. And I want to say you still have an opportunity for that. I will send you a link for the nation if this is something you feel like doing. I know they will be very appreciative of that, and I know that they need it. And beyond that, like, you can post about Israel, you can post the truth, you can speak the truth, you can stand behind Israel and come to temple, come to the JCC, come to stay with people who are Jewish as well, and also people who will understand what you're going through. I think they will have the tool. I know that, like, Aya and Yarden and Maya, who has family in Israel and are very connected because of the year that they're doing, they also have information that they can give you. And sometimes, you know, just hearing the truth from people who know the truth is enough to feel like I'm not standing behind something I don't believe, because in the media and in the news, it's so hard. It's so hard to see what's right and what's true about Israel. So I really encourage you to also ask the right questions and search for the information, because it is really out there beyond like the lies and what is so accessible to us. And you have such amazing tools here to use. And of course, you will have time to ask questions now, but I can also leave you my phone number, and I am available, and you can always ask me too if you want like the truth, or even if we just want to talk about how hard it can be sometimes. So I really encourage you to do that as well. And one thing I want to say is this is a difficult time for everyone, and everyone needs help, and it's okay to get help. I know it because I do it myself, and like use the people you know from your community to get the help you need to get through this hard time, and we're strong and we'll win at the end. And thank you for coming.
Anybody have any questions? We need to use this microphone because those who are joining us on live streaming wouldn't be able to hear you if you have a question. But first I wanted to make sure that you knew we have some, I thought maybe some tissues under there if you needed.
Oh, it's okay, thank you.
Questions?
I feel, I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit nervous. I feel a lot of guilt because I'm here and not in Israel, because I'm from Israel and I come here to work. And when we have all this terrible thing in 7 October, we be in the middle of shul and pray. And my shul, it's in Brooklyn, Easter Parkway, it's 770, it's Chabad Center. And in the middle of the tefillah, we don't use in the phones, but some men in the men area, because our shul, it's separate women, separate men, start in the middle like ringing, calling, and we understand something like it's never happened, because even people not keeping Shabbos, they don't go inside the shul and use the phone. So we understand something scary happened, and they pick up the phone in the middle of tefillah and they hear what they hear and just leave all the talit, all the siddur on the floor and go outside and go to Israel, because they be like miluim. They have to go fly to Israel. And my family live in center of country and Rishon LeZion, so it's we, like my family, not damaged of all this terrible stuff, but I never have like opportunity like apologize before you. But I want to tell you, we pray, and I personality finish from the 7 October every Shabbat. I finish 10 times Tehillim for you, like for us, like, because I know that I don't supposed to feel guilt, but I can't help. And unfortunately, I don't be in army because we're Orthodox, but I feel like my Tehillim and all the people Tehillim keep your soul be like much strong and help you not forget. Of course, it's very difficult to forget, but more smile, more like try help to other people. So I just never meet someone to say like I'm sorry, and we like very pray for you like always. So thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
So, my name is Lihi. I met Noam while she was here as an emissary, as a Shinshinit. I'm a mother in the Tzofim. And my daughter and Noam were very close. Noam called me a day or two after October 7th to tell me her story. And I think you symbolize the Israeli Hayafeh, the beautiful Israeli who is resourceful and never thinking just about yourself. Your entire story is focusing on how can I do better for other people. When I heard you you constantly repeated the story of how you wanted to protect your siblings. You never thought about yourself. You thought about others. Even if in your story now, you were talking about how can I do more as a soldier to help others. You were very frustrated at that day because you wanted to serve, you wanted to go and you wanted to help. We all, I think, appreciate it, but appreciate you. And I want to thank you for sharing the story here with us, and I really love you.
Any questions for Noam?
No, maybe you want to share where your family is right now and what's the situation right now?
Yeah, so after October 7th, we went to Tel Aviv, and a day after, when they extracted people, the kibbutz was moved to Judea. It's in northern Israel, and we were in a hotel. We were kind of split up because my mom and my two younger siblings were there in the hotel, but my older brother was in the reserve, my father was in the reserve, and I was in the army. And we were kind of all over the country at that point. Me and my brother moved back home at around February of that year. And my parents and my siblings went back at around July. So it was around, I think, 10 months that we were not at home. I only came back home after maybe a month and a half after October 7th. I went back with my mom to do some volunteering in our fields because people were still need to work the land, and we came to help. And I remember when we were coming into the kibbutz, we couldn't even use the front entrance yet. So my mom rolls down the window, and the only smell you can smell outside is fire. It's the whole field outside of my house, right in front of where I live, was burnt because of a rocket hitting that area, and everything went up in flame. And because it was such a war zone at the time, it was all you can feel. All you can smell and all you can see is gunpowder and just fire smell. So that's also one of my vivid memories after October 7th.
So I have a question. And I'm sorry to reveal my naivete, my ignorance on this. I lived in Israel for a year, and one of the most prominent images that you see is young people who are serving in the IDF who have a firearm strapped around their neck. And it's something that I always thought they had to carry with them, keep with them. But as you mentioned, when you were home, you were in the military, but you didn't have that. And
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable to ask that question. I almost don't want to reveal that to anything online.
It's
But
okay.
what is that common not to have it with you at home when you?
So not every soldier carries a firearm. Not whoever is not. You go through certain trainings in the army, and in certain trainings you do get a firearm, and especially if you're a fighter, and that's what you do. But not everyone has a firearm, and also a job in the army that includes needing firearm. Yes, after October 7th, a lot more of the population, especially in our area got a firearm, even though we weren't necessarily trained as long as you need to hold one. After October 7th, I got a firearm because of where I was. I was serving mainly in the West Bank at the time, and with special units, so we were in a lot of dangerous areas. So after that time, we did get a firearm that we carried around everywhere. But it really depends. There are some times when you go home, if you're in basic training, that you cannot have the firearm at home. So it really depends on the stage and what you do in the Army. So it really depends on that.
I also want to add that I'm first of all, I'm not surprised at all that, that following October 7th, there was a call to arms. I think this country experienced that also over the last several years. But it's also another myth that we believe that maybe every Israeli is packing a weapon somewhere in Israel, of course. But that's not necessarily correct. And it might be, things might have changed a little bit since then, but...
A lot more people
Right.
has some sort of weapon at home. Unfortunately, people need to feel safe in their own home, and I know that after I got my firearm, my mom always used to ask me when I would go for like a few days if I am going like for the Army and am I taking my firearm with me. And whenever I go to the Army, I have to take it with me, and sometimes if I like out for the weekend, I do not have to take it with me. And so it was very important to her because it was hard for her at first and even now to feel safe back at home, even though she wasn't with us like home that day. She's a mom, and I think some people in the crowd can relate to having to communicate with your children when this is happening and you're like just helpless and can't do much.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't want to end on such a, I don't know, my question, but Lauren has a question, and it's going to be wonderful.
Oh, my. My question is, I know you went back in February, and your brother went back. Was it a hard decision to go back? And was it a hard decision for your family? Like, you would think that, oh, that was your question? Sorry. If, I don't know, I guess my immediate response would be, I'm not going to go back there. But I know that's also not the right response. So was it a hard decision for your family to return to Yad Mordechai?
Well, first of all,
And was it a hard decision for them, your parents, to have you and your brother go back? I mean, you're 21, 22 years old and I remember, when I was with you, there weren't that many people living on the kibbutz at the time. You were pretty much isolated. So as a mom, that would not make me so comfortable.
So first of all, I want to say there is not a right response to the situation. I mean, put each of us in different story and different people's shoes, then I'm sure many different people would make many different decisions, and I'm not judging anyone for any decision they made after October 7th. But for me and my brother, I think it was easier coming back. Our friends were there, our family was like away, so it actually made it easier in a sense because you don't have to worry about them. I think for us it was also easier to come back because we weren't necessarily home all the time. We were in the Army, so a lot of the time we were serving, and then we would come home and be together mainly in weekends or stuff like that. So I think that's why it was easier for us to come back. And I think for my family, I don't want to talk on behalf of my mom because I am not sure we really had this conversation. But I think for my family, the the hard part of the decision of coming back was, at least for my parents, was the community went back and started going back. And my mom didn't want to come back, not because of how we felt, not just because of how we felt and how hard it was after at home. I think it was because she wanted us to be a united front with the other kibbutzim and moshavim in the Gaza envelope, and to stand with them and kind of saying, we're not coming back until it's safe for everyone to come back, and until everyone can come back, including, of course, our hostages. And I think they made the decision of coming back because of my siblings and their social life in the kibbutz and with their friends and their friends at the area. And I know it wasn't an easy decision for them to make. But there is something my mom always said to anyone asking her about living in the kibbutz. A lot of people kind of had the question, like, why would you leave there in the first place? Like, why would you put your kids in this way of living? Because I never knew a world without, alarms and explosions and bombing. I was born into it. I probably knew how to run to a shelter before I knew how to say mom. So she get that question a lot, and her answer is something I really took with me, is not just because it's our home and our home for generations, it's for a couple of more reasons. First of all, if we won't live there and populate the area, it will become a dead wasteland and can be easily taken by the people who seek and want to destroy and harm us. And the second, more important reason is that she always says that if she cannot live in Yad Mordechai comfortably and feel safe there, she doesn't have a safe place in the whole world. So I think that's a big part of what we also grew up believing. I'd like to say my parents are very Zionists, and that may have gotten a bad context during this war, but we very much believe in it. We believe in living in Israel and in living in this country, even when it's bad and ugly and hard, because it's still ours, and it's our home, all of us, and we need to keep it safe.
So quick comment from a text that came in, and then Alicia, I will give you. And you're okay? Okay. Okay. This is from Dana. She said she apologized she couldn't attend, but she is watching online, and she was wondering if you could make sure to leave those lists of donations that you made reference to, and that maybe we could help organize here at the temple. And I guess Dana is offering to volunteer for that. Take over that. Yes.
So
Okay. So include that link for us as well.
So yeah, we'll make a list, and I'll forward Maya and Lauren the links for donations.
I want to thank you for the courage and that you have shown in telling your story, and I'm wondering about how you and your friends are dealing with the trauma. Everyone in Israel is traumatized, and here we have different techniques and programs to deal with the trauma. I don't know whether you've had time to do things, self-care for yourselves, and to
And
help
so
with it.
um, I think for us, we're really a generation that kind of experienced this whole war differently because my friends are all soldiers. A lot of them are in fighting and combat units, and it is sometimes terrifying because you get a message and like, I'm going into Gaza, I'm going into Lebanon, and it's terrifying because you never know what's gonna be the next name, unfortunately, and also, unfortunately, I have a list. And so I think for me, after a while, well, the first thing that happened after October 7th, or even I think on the day of October 7th, my commander, we have inside the army, you have a system that is a system of therapists and psychologists that meant to help deal with all sorts of trauma and mental problems, not just during war. And so my commander called me at one of the days, like after October 7th, and he told me, like, straight up, I am scheduling you an appointment with a therapist or an army therapist. This is not optional. This is not negotiable. This is happening. And so he was really there for me in that sense, in that time. I did ended up taking my own route with that and going to see someone not in the army so that I can have a process after. And so I'm in therapy, processing and talking about everything that had happened ever since. And I think a lot of people are in Israel going to therapy, whether it's group therapy or by themselves. But there are also a lot of programs of people reaching out to our communities and kind of suggesting, like, hey, we're doing this program of 10 sessions of like just talking to people from all over Israel about the experience and the trauma, and there are so many programs that are reaching out to our communities that were hurt ever since this war started. And so there are a lot of programs and stuff. I know that many of my friends are doing that as well. But I think something else that is very therapeutic for us is to just be together and to do normal stuff that people at our age do, and to hang out together at home with our staff, with our community. It's something that has very helped us also heal as a group from what happened. You're welcome.
Again, Noam, thank you so much for opening up your heart and sharing your incredible story with us. And in a way, this story continues, right? And I so appreciate you letting us know that we still can help. We still should be helping. So we will. We will. Thank you.
Thank you for the
another
opportunity.
round of applause. Do we open the wine now?
You
I know, I'm
can
just kidding,
if
I'm
you.
just kidding.
No, you can, honestly.
But you wanted everyone to see, and so remember, this is the combination of the two names that you suggested, and whatever you can stand. There's oh, okay. Come up to me.
Opportunity to chat with Noam, or with Aya, or with Yarden, or Maya.
Whoever you choose.
Anybody want to see the wine? And thank you for those online joining us. I'm going to end the live streaming at this point.